Yeah.
All right. What do you know about it? Anything at all yet?
I just know it's an infusion technique. I don't know anything else.
Don't know anything. Okay, all right,
Mm-hmm.
cool. So basically what it does is combine microneedling with infusion. So it's very different than obviously an exfoliation with infusion. So I know that you guys here have, hydrofacial, you do chemical peels, right? And you do other stuff as well. What else do you do?
We do dermaplaning. We do the injectable enhancements here, and then along with just traditional facials.
Okay. So the kind of market is set up and with the tools that you guys have. If you want to look at just devices, then obviously hydrofacial is. So your hydrofacial would be your introductory product, I guess, because it's a nice product, but it doesn't do a lot. As far as clinically, it really doesn't do a great deal. It's more of a feel-good kind of treatment. So if you have people on hydrofacial now, then they probably need to be stepping up to the next treatment, if you like, and that's where this would fit in. So again, this combines microneedling with infusion, and then we have 6 different infusions to choose from, everything from growth factors, peptides, HA, kojic acid, vitamin C, CBD, what else?
The clarify.
And lactic and salicylic acid,
Yeah.
right? So clarify. So we have a number of different solutions that you can choose from. But the main principle of this treatment was initially was to supplant those things like hydrofacial with a more clinically proven treatment. And I'm not just knocking hydrofacial, I mean anything in those categories. Like we make devices in that same category, so I'm just lumping them all together. And we all know that microneedling is effective, right? So what we wanted to do is design something that was clinically better, but also something that patients would want to have on a regular basis. So we wanted to make it like a monthly treatment. So which means we had to come up with a way to do no pain, no downtime, all that kind of stuff. So that's a basic principle behind it. So if you remember back in the day with microneedling, you might not remember, but microneedling started, it's been around forever, but really became more popular in the 70s, sort of late 70s by a doctor from South Africa. Des Fernandez really pioneered what we know today as microneedling. And he was doing a lot of work on scar work and things like that, so going pretty deep, like 3 millimeters deep. Because it was mainly dealing with acne scars. So as microneedling developed beyond there, more people kind of looked and said, okay, well, what else does it do? Obviously it does collagen, it can help break up pigment, it's going to increase the elastin, all of those things that we're trying to do, whether it be with lasers or other things as well. So the kind of progression when we brought this out was probably a couple of months before all these pens came out, which kind of flooded the market and kind of left us stranded a little bit because we were doing something different than everybody else. But then also we were the only ones really that, I shouldn't say new, but were discussing collagen and hydration and pigment in the sense that it's not an aggressive treatment, or it doesn't have to be. So back in the day, then all of these companies, all of the salespeople were saying, well, you need pinpoint bleeding for collagen, and I'm like, well, you show me one clinical paper that says that, and I'll believe you, because there isn't any. So even today, if people say, well, you need pinpoint bleeding for collagen, just say, well, prove it, because there's nothing to show it. So that's where we kind of got stuck a little bit. Things have changed today because people now realize that we were right in the first place, that you really don't need pinpoint bleeding for collagen. So if you think about it, all of your fibrobiasis, keratinocytes, your cytokines, all of that stuff is what stimulates your collagen, your elastin, and all of those skin improvements that we're looking for. None of those are found in the dermis. right? So they're all found in the epidermis. So why would you injure the dermis to do that? I mean, there's no need, right? Because you want to stimulate those ingredients per se, or whatever you want to call them. But if you want to stimulate that fibroblast activity and get the chemical cascade to start rising, then there's no need to injure the dermis and therefore create a bigger injury, more downtime, more pain, all of those kinds of things. So, so what we offer basically is 2 needle lengths, 0.25 and 0.5. So there you're staying pretty much in that D junction, maybe just below, depending on the thickness of the epidermis that you're dealing with. And so that way that we can create the collagen and the pigment, but we don't cause the downtime as well. And there's papers to prove that now that, so one was published 2014 that compared 0.25, 0.5, 1 millimeter and 2 millimeter length needles for collagen and wrinkles and stuff like that. And they found they got the best results between 0.25 and 0.5. It doesn't mean you're not going to get a good result at 1, but why do it if you don't need to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So that was the principle behind the product and what it does. The other thing is to deliver solution into the skin. You've got to get it into the skin before the interstitial fluid fills up the hole, right? So if you take a needle and you stick it into the skin, then you're damaging cells, right? So when you damage cells, they're going to break down, they're going to collapse, which releases fluid. So if you create a hole in the skin and then you put something on top of that hole for it to go into that hole, some of it's going to get in, right? It's going to be better than not doing anything, for sure. But it's not a really good delivery mechanism because that hole is full of interstitial fluid from damaged cells already, right? So it's just it's just biology. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of illogical, that it's going to deliver it that well. So what you want to do is get the stuff in the hole before the hole fills up with the fluid, which means you've got to do them 2 at the same time. You can't really, just make a hole and put something on top and they jump up and down and hopefully it goes in the hole, right? So you really want to create the hole and deliver the fluid at the same time. So again, that's what this does. So the other thing that's very different with this, similar to your hydrofacial, etc., it uses a vacuum. And the vacuum is there for a couple of reasons. One of them is it's going to stretch the skin, of course, which basically means the needle can go in easier. But also you're pulling the skin away from nerves as well. So therefore because a lot of times the pain, it's not necessarily just from a needle going in the skin, it's the pushing down on the nerves where it hurts, right? So if you can do the opposite, then you're going to do it without pain. However, obviously that's also going to depend on how deep you go. So anything like 0.25 to 0.5, you don't need to numb them first. And when you use one or the other is going to depend on the thickness of the epidermis. So if you have a extremely fair person with red hair, very thin epidermis, then 0.25 is going to be plenty. If you get somebody with darker skin and much thicker epidermis, then maybe the 0.5 is the way you want to go. So, I have, clinics that use nothing but 0.25, and that's what they use all the time, and I have some that use nothing but 0.5. So it tends to become a preference, a view of a practitioner, but then also what you've built for the patient to expect as well. So obviously 0.5 is going to create a bigger trauma, they get more erythema, et cetera, et cetera. Some people like that, and then some people don't. So again, those are things that you as practitioners figure out, with your clients. Maybe the first one they have, you just put 0.25 anyway, so they can get comfortable with the treatment, and then step them up from there. So basically that's the way you can do this. Now you can incorporate other treatments with this. Again, I don't know how you're selling it or what your packages are. That's entirely up to you guys, but you can combine this with an exfoliation first. If you wanted to, you could do a mild chemical peel after. So there's different things that you can do